and welcome to Great Expectations. Today we have a how-to show with a difference, how to stay out of danger. Whether it's avoiding a hijacking or removing drowning hazards from the home, there's a lot you can do to keep yourself and your family safe. Up first, how do we teach our children to stay out of the way of dangerous people? How do you teach a child the stranger danger message without confusing them or scaring them? With us in studio is self-defense expert and safety expert Gordon Cooper and pediatric trauma and ICU nurse and manager of trauma and transplant at Nedcare, Mandy Tobkin. Welcome to both of you. I'm going to start with you, Mandy. We talk a lot about stranger danger, but is it true that most kids are actually harmed by people that they know?
It's absolutely true. It's a tragic situation. We're up to 90% of children, if you look at statistics from all over the world, are actually harmed by somebody they know. So it's the uncle or the mom or the dad or a caregiver.
How do we teach kids to be aware and to be vigilant without making them paranoid or anxious?
Well, I think one very clever way that I used, and it worked quite successfully, was to take a magazine with different people in it and to ask your child to have a look at the woman in the wedding dress and to say, is this a stranger or somebody you know? And so that you teach them that even it's not just the ugly people or the bad people that look bad, it's those that are also pretty and those that are dressed well that are bad people, and to teach them that way.
Sexual abuse is so rife in South Africa. From what age do we start talking to our children about sexual abuse?
Well, as soon as they can assimilate language. I mean, you can teach a child from the age of 4 things about sexual abuse, and in fact use that word. It's a word that's not a great word for adults because we associate things with it, but to use the word sexual abuse, absolutely, from about the age of 4, they can learn about it.
How do we teach a child to be able to identify when somebody is suspicious?
I think it's anyone is suspicious that the child doesn't know. And I think what we need to be able to teach the child, though, is what is not good behavior from adults towards them. So what are good touches and what are bad touches, and how to actually report that. And I think that we have to trust our children. We have to actually teach them what we want them to know about dangerous people, and then when they come back and tell us, don't just poo-poo it. You know, oh, mummy's just busy cooking, while they're telling you something. You know,
our society, so many of our cultures are very big on respect and respect for elders and be polite and speak well. How do we teach our children to be vigilant and to be aware, like you're saying, but still, you know, be able to maintain that sense of respect that children should have for older people?
I think there's a big difference here between respect for older people and then doing what older people who are strangers want you to do. So, I mean, I was at an event this weekend and I offered very innocently a child a sweet who was at the event with me. And that child walked away from her mother and was round the corner. I mean, I could see the mother. But that child quickly walked away from her mother round the corner, and we were able, you know, and accepted that sweet. And it just shows how easy it is. And that mother didn't even know the child was missing for about 3 minutes.
Wow. I'm going to come over to you, Gordon. How rife is kidnapping and snatching of children in South Africa?
Very rife. Statistics say that we're about 3rd or 4th worldwide of all countries. So it's a real reality. We've just lived next to the train track so long we don't know the train anymore.
Oh, God. And what age groups are the ones that are most at risk?
Your most dangerous, we were discussing this just before we came on, but the most dangerous age is probably high school from what we find.
Wow, really?
Any school-going children, especially girls, but your high school teen girls, that's where our biggest dangers are.
And can you talk a bit about kids who get caught in the crossfire during other acts of crime? So you being hijacked or they're breaking into the house and now the child is there.
Yes. Most kids just aren't prepared for this. And so I find on my classes, when we stop preparing them, you know, they haven't been told what to do. Critical to prepare them up front, because at that time when that happens, you're not thinking clearly. You even can't remember instructions that we discussed once. So these are ongoing discussions that need to be had in families over and over. And of course they need to be prepared, and it's different. Each family situation is different, your fears are different, possible scenarios are different, and we definitely need to train them and tell them what to do. Maybe it's lying flat, running to a room where they lock themselves in while mom or dad distracts the people that have come in. But there must be drills that must be done over and over, and it must be done in a way that is fun. Children need to be taught not these are horrible things that have happened, and because of these things that have happened, that's why we're showing you this, and we scare them. Rather, we must say to them, you know, that we need to learn how to live safely. And so what we're teaching you is to help you to be more safe in a world that is dangerous.
Mandy, what age do we start talking to our children about this? What age do we start preparing them with drills, or, for example?
I think as soon as the child can learn to understand instructions. So when you say to the child, please fetch your bottle or go and pick up your toys, and the child is starting to understand that, that's a time when the child can actually be taught these drills. And very simple drills, you know, what to do, hide in a cupboard or listen to mommy. And that very easy for a mother to look at. And I don't think I want to give an age, because I think the mother knows best when the child is actually listening.
Can you teach us some age-appropriate language around, for example, I mean, if there's a gun in the home, or if you're talking to a child about a potential physical threat in the home, a robber coming in, how do you explain that to a really little child?
I wouldn't beat around the bushes. First of all, I wouldn't lie to them. So don't try and make it sound better than it does. You know, if there's a man who is not meant to be in our house, who is coming to harm us, we want to be safe from that man. We know that he's not meant to be here. We know that he's being dangerous in our home. Let's try and practice this. Why don't you run and hide in your special place? So that when mommy tells you run to the special place and hide, you know exactly where the special place is.
So we should identify a special place in our home.
Absolutely. We should identify areas where children can actually hide safely and not get into trouble. And we should identify routes that they can get out of the house should we wish to get them out the house.
And a code word? For them
not
to come
often,
out when it's safe?
To come out when it's safe, yes, absolutely. But
Okay.
often when they hear mommy's voice, and I would like to use a code word, because I think that, you know, you could be threatened to bring your child out of the hiding place by the person in the home. So there could be an all safe code word for children.
And
absolutely.
what's the number that all of our children need to know to phone?
They should have at least a police number dialed in on your phone, and
Okay.
they need to press a 1, a speed
Okay.
dial. Children shouldn't have to learn an emergency number. I can't even remember an
Okay.
emergency number in an emergency. So dial it in and put it on speed
We
dial.
save it on
for
speed
the
dial
child.
at 1 on our phone,
1 on your phone,
10111.
10111.
10111. Save it
But
speed
save
on
it as
speed
a
dial
speed
at
dial
1.
and let the child press the speed dial. I painted nail polish on my speed dial number so that my
So that the
child
baby
was
can
aware that the
identify
red
it.
button needed to be pushed. in an
Very, very
emergency.
clever, brilliant. As moms, we want our little ones to be safe at all times. When baby is sleeping is one of those times, and your Pampers Monday Minute will give you tips on just that.
Safe sleep is a huge concern for parents of newborns. Thanks to extensive research, we now know how to keep the risk of cot death as low as possible. Make sure that your new baby sleeps on a new mattress. Smoking anywhere near a baby is an absolute no-no. It can also increase the risk of cot death. Make sure there are no soft toys, loose blankets, or cot bumpers in your baby's cot. Your baby does not need a pillow. Overheating is another risk factor for cot death. Simply feel in the nape of your baby's neck and you'll know if they're just comfortable. Put your baby to sleep on his or her back. This is perhaps the most important thing that you can do to lower the risk of cot death. And finally, it is recommended that you keep your baby's cot in your bedroom for the first 6 months of life. It's just so much easier to monitor them that way.
More tips for great sleep on your next Pampers Monday Minute.
Stay with us. After the break, we find out how to stay calm in a hijacking with the kids in the car. Hi, you're with us on Great Expectations. Today is our How to Stay Out of Danger show. It's a nightmare scenario, being hijacked in the car while you have your little ones with you. Here's the good news. Less than 1% of criminals want to take your child with them. A few days ago, we headed outside with hijack and safety expert and former policeman Richard Brusso to find out exactly what to do in the event of a hijacking. Now I'm in the car. I've just pulled up at my driveway. I've got my child in the back seat and I see somebody come out of nowhere. Richard, what do I do?
So you will hands up. With your left hand, you will unlock the door. Most cars in South Africa, if you lean across and you click the door lever twice, the doors unlock. With your left hand, you will undo the safety belt. Pull up the handbrake and take the car out of gear.
My baby's in the back
Turn
seat.
body sideways.
Turn body sideways.
Go to the back. Remember, Lebu, you cannot save your child if you cannot save yourself. You will open the back door. Left or right hand does not matter here because you will not remember those things. Take your right leg and foot and step into the motor car. By doing this, you've placed over 60% of your body weight inside the motor car. If the car moves, it'll throw you with the child. So you'll basically lean in and retrieve your child from the motor vehicle. And you move away from the vehicle.
Okay. And Richard is in studio to talk about hijacking a little more. Welcome, Richard. Thank you for joining us. That day was one of the most terrifying, nerve-wracking days, and you managed to make that information very concise and very, very practical. And it's something that you've got a lot of experience in. I mean, you're a former policeman, but you've also been hijacked 3 times yourself.
Right.
For the mums at home, what is it that we need to know? Where are we most vulnerable in terms of hijacking?
Level 68% of all vehicle hijackings happen in a home driveway. Now, that is not necessarily your own home driveway, but there's a driveway somewhere in the story.
Okay, so this is going to happen in a space where you're familiar,
Correct.
where you are comfortable, where you're probably at ease.
That's right.
And where you're closed in as well. Okay. The first thing that you told me is that I need to do everything with my left hand. Why was that?
7 out of, especially the men, 7 out of 10 men in South Africa are right-handed.
Yes.
Where will you, for example, place a firearm inside a motor vehicle while you're driving? It's either by the door pocket, between the legs, or on the side. This hand movement portrays that you're reaching for something. Imagine driving a nice SUV, you're high off the ground, but the criminal, the guy that's more nervous than you, cannot look down on you. So the slightest move you make with your right hand, they might misunderstand, misread, and think you're reaching for a firearm.
Okay. I remember one of the things that you told me that felt very, counterintuitive was for me to get out of the car first and get myself, make sure that I'm safe and then attend to the baby. When should we tell the hijacker that we've got a child in the car?
As soon as, let me first start this way. I have a theory where I always say, if I can see the color of the weapon that is pointed at me, and I can see it's a silver or a black gun in color, the brain must be able to say, they are so close to me, they're going to cause me grievous bodily harm.
Okay.
So at that point, when you decide, I cannot escape, you will hands up immediately, show them you no threat, and then you tell them, I have a child inside the motor vehicle. There has been very isolated cases where cars have been taken with kids inside, but the criminals did not know there were kids inside the motor vehicles.
You kept saying that over and over again, that they don't want to take the child. That's not what they're interested in most of the time.
Correct.
Why is that?
If I take a child, it becomes a priority crime. Every policeman, radio station, helicopter, security company, traffic official will bend over backwards to make sure they find you or your child. Becomes a priority crime.
Okay. You showed me a baby in the car seat at the back. What if there's another child also? What if I've got 2 children with me?
Lebo depends on the age of the kids. Let's say, for example, you've got a 5-year-old and a 6-month-old. The mothers normally place the big child far left because he's the naughty one in the, in the car, and then the small baby behind her. So imagine going into the car, throwing body weight into the car. Now you're going for the small little baby, the 6-month-old one. But the big child is going to move towards the parent.
It's going to come anyway
That's right.
towards mama.
So what I suggest is swap the 2 around. So the big child always sits behind you and the smallest baby furthest away from you in the back. So when you throw body weight inside the car and you lean over to the far end, you can push the big one out on your side.
What if you have a hatchback like me? I drive a 3-door car.
In a 3-door car or 2-door car, try not to exit the vehicle unless you've got your child in your hand or grab hold of the child. The reason for that is I'm scared you've exited the vehicle. Both you and the robber are running for the same opening, the door. You'll be the dominant party here because what motivates you is your child screaming inside the motor car. So what I suggest is while you're inside the car, try and grab hold of your child. Always have the safety belt on until you get hold of your child. The reason for that is you do not get this tug of war scenario where they pull and you pull back. So hands up, grab hold of the child, only then safety belt, and then you exit.
Okay. What if I am being followed on the road? How do I check to make sure that I am actually being followed? And then once I make sure that I'm being followed, once I know for sure, what do I do from there?
Let me ask you a question first before I answer. If you take last Friday, honestly, when you drove home, did you think of vehicle hijacking?
No.
We don't think about those things. Isn't it also funny, the closer you get to your house, the more relaxed you become?
Absolutely.
Isn't it also funny, there where you are at your most relaxed, 68% of the crime take place? I do not say become paranoid, but when you drive, especially in a residential area, look at cars. You know, if there's a car behind you, we can talk about this for 2 weeks, because what scares you will not scare me, and maybe the other way around. But if a vehicle scares you in a residential area where most of the crimes take place, reduce your speed. Drive 20 kilometers an hour. Put your indicator onto the left. I reckon by house number 3 or 4, the driveways, if the car behind you has not overtaken you, they might be looking for the same address as you. Don't think the criminals are stupid, as we say. They're not going to stay behind you the whole time until you stop. They quickly want to read you. What's your intentions? They even sometimes overtake you, make U-turn at the end of the road, or go not more than 3-4 houses further down and stop opposite
and wait
side
for
of
you
the
down
road.
there.
Because they know as soon as they've overtaken you, your brain will convince you, but there's no threat. They've overtaken me.
Right.
So play with your speed. I'm trying to make this as easy as possible for the ladies at home, the mothers,
yes.
so they do this. Play with the speed, indicator on. But at least if you think they're following you, you've won half of the battle. You don't get to that old scenario where most people say, oh, Richard, they came from nowhere. It was guns and knives all over the place.
Where do I go if I know now I'm being followed? I've done that. I've played with my indicator. I've tried to lose them. I've turned and I've twisted, and now I know that I'm being followed. What do I do? Where do I go? Do I go home?
Obviously, no, not home. Obviously, first place would be police. But if you do not know where the police station is, you're in unfamiliar territory. Anywhere where there's people around, filling station, hospital, fire station, shopping mall, we try and go to a place where there's people around.
Okay. Thank you so much, Richard. Valuable information. We're back after the break when we find out what to do if you are physically attacked. You're not helpless, but you need to know what to do. Welcome back. Today on Great Expectations, we are discussing how to keep yourself and your family out of danger. I'm standing up because I am about to be given a lesson on how to protect myself if I am attacked. And showing me what to do is self-defense expert Gordon Cooper. Thank you so much for joining us, Gordon.
Pleasure.
When am I most vulnerable, and what are common mistakes that women make to make themselves more vulnerable than we need to be?
Well, I think there's 2 keys that we need to keep in mind. One is what we call the A of safety, which is awareness. Most people are attacked because they're not aware. We interviewed many criminals in prisons all over the world, and we found out that they target people who aren't looking around. So it's very critical, and we call it soft eyes. Always just to be aware, it just shows confidence. So that's the first place we make a mistake. The second place is women in our country have been socialized and around the world really to be nice.
Yeah,
you're not going to
sure.
get the guy if you're not nice, you know.
For sure.
And so someone comes up to you at the mall, you're carrying too much stuff, and they say, can I help you? Your instincts and your little voice are going crazy saying, don't do this.
Yeah.
And you just ignore it because you've got to be nice. And that's when a lot of trouble happens. And so it's critical to listen to our inner voice. It's a beautiful gift we're given to help save us. If we are uncomfortable and we have feelings, we must listen to that.
And especially women, especially mothers' intuition, women's intuition is powerful, so we must listen to that.
That's right.
You spoke just now about women who are carrying, baby in one hand, bags, shopping in the other hand, keys in the other hand, phone in the other hand. I mean, we're often weighed down with stuff, especially in public spaces. How does this also make us more vulnerable?
Most people never think of safety until something happens. So my advice always there, if I've got a little one or a couple, and it's amazing how many women have this concern. Plan ahead. Go to the shops at a time when it is a bit safer. Park closer to the entrances. And get a trolley where you can put the baby in and the stuff in. Instead of holding all the bags in the one hand and I've got the baby in the other hand and the cell phone on my ear, plan for these things.
Sure.
It's just critical to, and I find just having a trolley with a baby in and having the groceries there helps you just to be more prepared, and therefore to be more aware while you're walking and to be more confident as opposed to being distracted by all these things.
What happens if my attacker has a weapon, if he has a gun or if he has a knife?
We immediately always feign compliance. And when I say feign compliance, we become small. We keep as much distance as we can. We put our hands up in this manner. And we never look them straight in the eye. But don't look away either, because you can't see if they're going to hit you on the head or try and stab you, etc. So I'm going to keep my eyes perhaps near where your chest is, and I'm going to make myself as small as I can and keep my hands up. If someone does come up to you, which they generally do, and put the gun against your head or the knife against your stomach, etc., at least everything is in place so that if they try and hit me, I can move my hands. My hands are also in the hands up position, and I'm covering everything that's vital. I'm covering my heart, I'm covering vital arteries, etc., by having my hands up and my elbows down.
So, and my shoulders up as well?
Sure.
Okay, so I must look like I am not a threat, and
Completely.
I must look like I'm listening.
Sure.
Okay, so
and
now
don't look me in the eyes ever.
don't look in the
It's a
eyes
challenge,
ever.
completely challenge.
Okay, so now I'm gonna ask you to role play on me. I am being attacked.
Yes.
I've backed up now. I'm pretending like I'm not looking at you. I've got my hands up. I'm protecting myself. What do I do?
Okay. Are you wanting to do a weapon scenario or or just a general?
Let's do the general scenario and then let's do what happens
with
if
weapons,
with a
correct.
weapon. Yes.
Okay. So what's happened is you're trying to keep space. Your safe distance is if you put your hand straight out for me. This is your safe distance because there's nothing that I can do. I can't kick you. I can't hit you until I close the distance.
Okay.
So you're trying to keep me away from you by keeping your hands up. The minute you're setting a firm boundary, the minute I close that gap, the fight's on because I'm coming to hurt you. Now, weak points on the human body are the eyes and the groin, no throat, nothing else. So what you want to do also is go for those two targets. And the interesting thing is when you go for those targets is there's immediately a reaction. So if you go for my eyes, you can do this to any stranger or any friend. The minute you go for our eyes, people move their head back, pick up their hands.
It's instinct.
Exposing their groin. It's instinct.
Right.
So the second target is now open.
Yes.
If you go for the groin, people tend to bend backwards, put their hands in front, exposing their
The
eyes.
eyes.
Are the target. We call it the
Right.
can opener because when you go for one, the other one kind of comes towards you. So what we're going to do is we're
Okay.
going to first go for the eyes as I
Okay.
step in. The minute you do that, there will be this kind of reaction. Then we're going to go for the groin.
Okay.
And once you've gone for the groin,
Okay.
typically the person falls, and then I want you to go for the head with a knee.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, great.
Let's do it. Let's do
And
it.
just if I can explain, the reason we go to the head with a knee to end it is because that knocks people out very
Okay.
easily.
Okay. So Gordon explained to me in the ad break that the position that you should put your hands in is put all your fingers together, like almost like make your hands look like they're a snake about to strike, and you use that to attack your attacker's eyes.
That's right.
So okay.
In the following manner. So I'm going to step forward and attack.
Yeah.
Eyes, groin, knee to the head to end it.
Okay.
And 3, 2, 1, we're on.
Okay.
Yeah! Ah! Ah! Ah!
What if there's another attacker? What if there's more than one?
Which is often the case. So at that stage, all you do, the minute your attacker's knocked out like that, you run to the head. Because if I've got a gun in my pants or something, it's going to be easier to do it if I'm lying on my back facing you. So you want to run behind to where my head is, and immediately, because now we're adrenalized and there's tunnel vision and we're not thinking
So
straight
as soon as I kicked you in the
in the head, you run to where my head's lying, put your hands back up,
put my hands back
look
up.
around because there may be others, and then go get help if there's no one. If there is others, you can face them and defend yourself verbally.
I don't
or
try to
physically.
take the weapon or anything. I just run to the
Nothing.
head and get out of
Get out
there.
of it.
Okay. You mentioned something about the brain and the head during the ad break. You said that if the brain rattles or moves a little bit
That's
and
right.
hits the wall of
That's
the,
right.
the skull, then I'm going to go unconscious.
Sure. So the brain rests in cerebral fluid, and the minute we hit the skull hard enough, what happens is the brain will bounce. If the brain bounces twice in the skull, we automatically pass out. And that's why the knockout works. I've been knocked out in a class by my daughters,
Wow.
young girls,
Wow.
with this helmet on because they just catch you perfect. So it really works, and we've had many students who've come back and said they can't believe it, they knocked him out.
Should women carry a gun, a knife, pepper spray? Should we be walking around?
I would very
armed?
much advocate that you are, where possible, and what I would advocate you carry is a pepper spray. It's
Pepper
the
spray.
simplest thing to carry. It's also a non-intimate weapon in the sense that you can use it at a distance. I was in course in Cape Town this weekend. People were talking about tasers. The problem with that is that you're up close and personal.
You've gotta get in a
What if you're
space.
touching each other? You're going to get shocked. You're in their space. Whereas a pepper spray can be used at a distance, especially a good one.
And the pepper spray goes directly for the eyes. He's going to try to cover his
Sure.
eyes, exposing the groin, and I still
right.
same formula.
Sure, and many times we can just use it for our boundary. We can hold the pepper spray, hold our hands up, and say, I don't want to fight, I don't want trouble. Attackers aren't looking for a fight, they're looking for a victim. And if they see that they're going to get a fight, well, then they'd rather move on to someone else. It's safer for them.
You also said during the ad break that I need to make a lot of noise. I must make a hell of a
Yes, ma'am.
noise. Okay.
So while you're involved in the fight, you shout like crazy. It's part of that whole adrenal thing. It keeps you breathing, because when you're in a fight like this, if you stop breathing, you're going to pass out quickly.
Sure.
It becomes too overwhelming. So you shout, it makes you stronger, it makes your attacker afraid, gets attention.
We've heard stories before about urinating or defecating on our attackers. What's your take on that?
Well, I think some people get such a fright it happens naturally, but I think especially in a rape scenario, it's a good thing. It puts people off.
Right.
Especially in that scenario.
Right. And what if I have my child with me when I'm being attacked? What do I do?
This is again a drill that we need to teach our kids. What they tend to do is cling onto us.
Sure.
Now you got a kid clinging on your knee, so when you do a knee strike, there goes the
can't
kid.
do it.
So the ideal is to train the kids to hang on to the grocery basket or to stand behind you, because if they're clinging onto you, you're going to be in a difficult situation. Of course, you want to be in front and have the kid behind you.
We've got a minute before we're supposed to go to ad break, but I'd like to do the attack again. And this time I want to scream properly so that all the mums at home can see what you're really supposed to do and what it's supposed to sound like.
Excellent. Just so the moms know, the order must be correct. Eyes, knee to the groin, knee to the head. Works perfect.
Okay.
And we're on. Yeah!
No! 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 We're back after the break when we move away from crime situations that are dangerous to other dangers. Water can be one of the most dangerous things in your home if you have a little one. Up next. Thank you so much, Gordon.
That's great.
Welcome back. Today we are talking about how to stay out of danger. Water is the stuff of life, but it can also take your life away. Sadly, despite the huge awareness campaigns around drowning hazards, we still have news reports of children and babies drowning in unguarded swimming pools or even falling into toilet bowls and drowning. Let's find out how to stay safe from water now with trauma nurse and unit manager of the Olivedale Hospital Emergency Department, Martins Grobler, and pediatric and trauma ICU nurse and unit manager of trauma and transplant at Nedcare, Mandy Tobkin. Mandy, how common is drowning in South Africa, especially with children?
I think sadly it's very common, and I think what we don't see is we don't see the drownings that are happening in the rural areas. We don't hear about children who haven't been taught to swim, haven't been afforded the opportunity to swim, and who drown and we don't know about it. But very, very common. The saddest part of it is it happens with the parents around. I mean,
well, this is what I was going to ask you, is that a lot of the time where parents are around, or there's lots of people around, but because people are partying or people are having fun, they don't notice.
well, statistics say 70% of children who drown have had a parent who's supposed to be watching them. Up to 75% have had two parents who've been watching them and have been missing for up to 5 minutes before either of the parents, who assumes the other one's looking after the child, actually realizes that they're not looking after the child.
By law, what are we supposed to do in terms of protecting our pools, nets, and covering any exposed water in our properties?
Well, the bylaw still hasn't been passed, and I mean there was a fantastic bylaw that was coming in, but by law you need at least some sort of protection around your pool. I think that you need double protection. You know, they say that if you have one method, it's always fail-safe. But if you have two methods, you know, the child's going to have quite a lot of difficulty. And I mean, I have an 18-year-old child. I don't even have a small child in my home, and I've still got a pool net on because other people's children come to visit you.
Sure.
So I would assume if you have a young child, either fill the pool in and plant daisies, or put on a pool net and a fence, and make sure you might even have a third safety mechanism, such as an alarm, a pool alarm.
But pools are not the only problem. I mean, there's also bathtubs, there's
Toilet clips. So, you know, you buy them. You can get to any of the stores that sell things for babies. They've got clips that close the toilet lids. You shouldn't have buckets with water lying around.
Okay.
If you've got a fish pond, you should have a pool net, a pond net over the fish pond, or else donate the fish to somebody else and plant flowers in it, you know. It's a very short space of time that you have to really sacrifice safety for your child. By the time they're 5 or 6, they're swimming, they understand instructions, you know, you can sort of move on to other safe.
Sure.
But Martins was telling me he's just bought a house, didn't even buy it with a swimming pool. He's got 2 young children, not interested in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Reduce the risks.
Why don't you want the swimming pool as a dad? I mean, it's summertime.
As a
Swimming
dad,
pools are like
just to take that risk away.
yeah.
Because even all the methods you're going to use, just if you don't have the risk there, then you don't have to look out for it.
Sure. Let's talk about how long we actually have if our children, if a child does manage to get underwater. How long do you have before that child goes unconscious or is at risk of dying?
Well, I think the minute the child hits the water and takes a breath in panic, what actually happens is as you take that breath, the water hits the cords, the larynx, and causes a shutdown. No oxygen to the lungs, no oxygen to the brain. You have about, it's terrible to say you have about 4 minutes. Most children are missing for much longer than that before they're picked up. So, avoid it in the first place. And the minute you see the child in the water, get the child out of the water.
Okay. On that note, Martins, can you show us what to do? We've found a child that has been submerged underwater we pulled baby out of the water, but we don't know the baby has been under for maybe a minute or maybe 2 minutes. What do we do now?
Okay, we've got the child out of the water. So
Martins is
hello,
now
can
going
you hear
to
me?
see if the child is responding. Okay, so this child's not responding.
Okay.
So
Check
what he
for
does, he
response.
checks for response, and he's feeling on the chest. He can see if the child's breathing or not, because you can quickly tell if the child's breathing by feeling on the chest at the same time. Child's not breathing, child's not responding. He calls for help.
Somebody to come help me.
There must be someone at home with you. If there's no one at home, start CPR first.
Wow.
Then go for help. And you can see what he's doing is in the size of the child, he's using the heel of his hand to press down just between the nipple line, and he does 30 compressions. And you can see down, out, down, out. Quite fast, 30, and then...
How big is this child?
This child's about a 5-6-year-old.
5-6-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what he does is, if you have a mouthpiece at home, you use it. If you don't have a mouthpiece, don't use it. It's your own child. Blow twice. Can you see the chest rising?
I see him. I see he tilted the head up as well.
Yes, he did. If you don't tilt the head back, you don't open the airway, and so you don't get air into the lungs.
Right.
So it's just to open. Again, he does another 30 compressions, and then he'll do 2 breaths, and he does 5 cycles of this. And if there's no one who can help, you then pick the child up, go to the phone immediately, and phone for help.
Okay.
Okay.
Start with CPR before you phone.
No
if
one
there's
to help
nobody
you,
around.
start with CPR first.
Okay.
Because who knows, he might just need a few episodes of CPR and you will revive your child. Whereas if you spend the time running around looking for someone to help, going to the phone, you're not going to get help.
I see he's on the 4th cycle now. Mom's going into panic mode. The first thing that we want to do is either we want to get on the phone and call somebody, or we want to wrap the child in a blanket because the baby's cold or the baby's gone blue. We want to wrap him in a blanket, throw him in the car, take him to the hospital. No.
Your child will die if you do that.
Okay.
You have to spend the time doing the CPR. Go and do a CPR course. Don't take what we've shown you now as a CPR course. Go and do it. It takes 4 hours out of your day. It's not a big deal. It's a wonderful thing. But then we just wanted to show you another one, is that if you have a smaller child where something has happened and the child has fallen in water, obviously you can't use the heel of your hand on that child. And this is a smaller baby. And so what Martins will do is he will demonstrate again between the nipple line. If you see, he does it with his fingers.
Yes.
And then he puts his fingers on that breastbone and you use 2 fingers to push down. Again, 30 compressions to 2 breaths.
How old is this baby, Mandy?
This is probably about a 4-month-old baby. Not that we would assume that this baby had fallen in the water, but you never know. Mothers leave 4-month-old babies with 4-year-olds in the bath.
Sure, that's true.
You might have
that's
a drowning.
True.
You
that's
have no
true.
idea.
Martins, can you just show us again how you find the breastbone?
So
and
between
and
the
your finger
nipples,
action?
2 fingers.
Okay.
Very easy. Very, very easy to do.
30
compressions, 2
breaths.
30 compressions. And then Martins, once he's done his 5 things, he can actually pick that child up and go to the phone with that child by holding the child in his hands and actually putting his thumbs around the child so he can just demonstrate it to you. You can actually just pick the child up, use his 2 thumbs to do CPR with, and go to the phone. So continue the CPR and then go to the phone.
How? What's the age limit for this technique?
To a year.
Probably a year
Up to
old.
a year.
Yeah. Up to a
Okay,
year.
and then after that, then we
Then
use.
you use the heel of the hand. And if you get tired with one hand, you
can
can
do it
use
with 2 hands.
Just don't smash the child's chest into the ground, enough to recoil and back.
The rationale behind breathing for a child to get oxygen to the brain. Can you talk to us about brain damage and what happens if you don't get oxygen?
Well, if you don't get oxygen, the brain dies. Like any other part of the body, the brain dies. So even if you're breathing air from oxygen out of the air, which is very low, 21% oxygen, at least give that an opportunity to the child to get oxygen.
Okay.
The other thing you spoke about, wrapping the baby up, which I think is very important.
Yes.
Cold children do better.
Really?
It spares the oxygen and it allows more oxygen delivery to the brain. So don't wrap your child in a blanket if your child is drowned. Keep them cold. It's not the end of the world. We can deal with the cold afterwards. Cold spares brain cells.
You hear these stories about people who are at the bottom of the river where it was so freezing. And
Great.
That's
Absolutely
the cold.
better. Cold spares brain cells. And in fact, when they go to hospital after they've had a drowning or a near drowning, we cool them down because we know that oxygen delivery to brain cells and saving those brain cells is improved by having a cold child.
Fantastic. Martins, thank you so much for this demonstration. I think you've helped a lot of mums at home. Mandy, as always, thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure.
We're back after the break for our final how-to stay safe in the sun. Welcome back. A reminder of our topic, how to stay out of danger. You might think sitting on the beach isn't vaguely as dangerous as criminal dangers, but the long-term effects of sun damage can lead to skin cancer. And let me give you the stats on that in this country. It's the most common form of aggressive cancer in South Africa, with 2,000 new cases each year, and 700 people die of this cancer every year in our country, according to the South African Cancer Association, Cancer. That's scary. And to talk about it now is trauma nurse, who's joined us once again, Mandy Token, as well as dermatologist, Dr. Miriana Popara. Thank you very much for joining us, Miriana. Thank you for staying with us, Mandy.
Pleasure.
Miriana, we're told that it's important to get in the sun, get vitamin D. The sun is good for you. What do you think?
Definitely, definitely, Lebo. We need a daily exposure to the sun to produce enough vitamin D because it is the major source of vitamin D. It's present in the skin as a pre-substances, and under the exposure of the sun it becomes a vitamin D. However, where is the fine line between how much of sun we need to produce enough vitamin D and how much is too much? You know, because it can result in a skin cancer. It's very difficult to say. In general, we do suggest people to stay on the sun on a daily basis, anything between 10 and 30 minutes.
But not prolonged exposure for
not
hours
prolonged
and hours
exposure, not between 10 and 4.
What about dark skin, black people, you know? Am I in danger, or are people who are much darker than me, are we in danger of getting sun cancer, skin cancer?
People with a darker skin definitely can get the skin cancer, as well as other sun damage like a pigmentation, as well as aging of the skin. But because of increased sort of melanin in the skin, it is a protective. So they might need a bit of a longer exposure to the sun in order to get that damage. But nevertheless, they are definitely exposed. If they exposed to the sun for the prolonged period of time, they can end up with a skin cancer.
So even if I'm dark skinned, even if I'm pitch black, I still need to wear sunblock?
You still need to wear a sunblock.
I still need
if
to
you're
wear a
going to
hat.
stay definitely on the sun for prolonged period of time in the middle of the day.
Okay. What about infants and sun exposure? I've got an 11-month-old son, and we're going on holiday soon, and we're very excited about it. What should we do?
Infants, it's sometimes difficult. When we're talking about the babies, less than 6 months of age, they should really try to stay indoors, but it's not possible to spend 6 months indoors. So if we do take them out, especially during the summer hot day, one should apply sunscreen on sun-exposed areas and wear a hat. For 11 months old, definitely. We should try to stay with 11-month-old indoor as well, between 10 a.m. and sort of 4 p.m. Take them for the walks earlier, before 10 and after 4. Wear a protective hat, protective clothing, and the sunscreen on sun-exposed areas.
Is it safe to use any kind of sunscreen on a baby?
Look, there is no proof that the sunscreens are dangerous or toxic, especially when we're talking about chemical sunscreens. But we don't really at this stage know much about the baby's skin and how they react to the different chemicals. So before we use the sunscreen, again, specifically chemical sunscreens, we should really do a little patch test. Put a bit of a sunscreen on the upper
skin.
arm, usually upper arm, inner part of the upper arm, because that's the most sensitive area. That's it. And wait for about 24 hours. If nothing appears till the next day, something like a rash, redness, itchiness, then it's safe to use it.
For the baby.
But remember, if we really want a full protection against UVA and UVB, I would rather suggest to use so-called physical creams, which are sunblock
Okay.
And there's much more less allergy to them, to those creams. They contain zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, though they can leave a bit of a funny sort
They
of a
turn you
grey
kind of white.
hue.
Yeah. They
Yes,
make you look
but
blue. Yeah.
yes, but they are a bit of a better protection, and also allergic reactions are much less to those creams.
Mandy, can you talk to us about sunstroke? What are the dangers of our children, especially infants and babies, toddlers, getting sunstroke when they stay out in the sun for too long?
Well, there's a big danger. I think children shouldn't be out in the sun. They can't regulate their own temperatures. So young toddlers are unable to regulate their temperatures. So the minute you take them out and you overheat them, they're at big risk of overheating and landing up in trouble.
Can a baby die from a sunstroke?
Oh, absolutely. The minute your temperature hits 40.6, you run the risk of becoming unconscious, not being able to breathe, fitting. It's very dangerous to be overheated. And even just overdressing a child in some instances will cause a child to overheat. So you've got to be very, very careful.
What are the symptoms of sunstroke or of overheating? And when do you know something is very wrong, I should go to the hospital?
Well, I think, first of all, don't get into that situation, but the symptoms are vomiting, nausea, a lot of sweating. Although babies don't sweat, you see, this is the big problem. No baby can tell you, Mommy, I'm hot.
No,
they
it's
become
true.
calm and they become unconscious, and you think they're sleeping. In the meantime, your child is overheating. So, you know, you saw that insert earlier on where you feel in the nape of your neck. You'll normally find that the baby's extremely hot there and there will be a little bit of sweat over there.
Yes.
So you've got to just be aware that, you know, if you're uncomfortable in the heat
What
and you've
about
put a big baby grow in a blanket and a jersey, I don't know why mothers got to cover babies with blankets in the middle of a summer day, you know. Those babies get extremely hot and are at risk. And what do we think? The baby's very good, it hasn't cried.
Oh,
Okay, in the
gosh.
meantime, the baby is very, very good.
So what do we do? Do we give the child more water to drink?
Well,
Do
you
we
need
try
to
cool
increase
them down?
fluids. You need to give them as much cooling as you want to be cooled. Wear light cotton clothing rather than wearing heavy clothing. And if they do get very hot, cool them down. So you might want to put them in a lukewarm bath. But I think if your child is hot and unconscious to a state that something is wrong, you need to urgently phone for emergency help.
Okay.
Not get in a hot car again and drive the child, because you panic, you don't put them in a car seat, a whole lot of other things happen. So just be careful.
Okay.
One of the big things that's important is the forgotten baby syndrome, where mothers get out of their cars when their children are sleeping in car seats and forget that the baby's in the car. So a very clever tip is put a soft toy on the front seat with you whenever the baby's in the car, so that you'll never forget that there's somebody in the car.
Thank you so much, Mariana. Thank you so much, Mandy. We have to cut this short, unfortunately. Thank you for the fantastic advice you've given us today. If you want to view the hijacking, self-defense, or resuscitation demonstrations, we will be posting them on our Facebook page. Go to www.facebook.com/greatexpectations.etv. Join Uveka tomorrow for our wildly popular Ask the Doctor show, where you can ask our experts your mom or baby care questions. Goodbye, and remember, you're a great mommy.